Have you ever felt it? That subtle shift in a room's energy right after you walk in, a lively conversation that suddenly fizzles out, a friend who feels distant. If so, it's probably because you've been putting in the work on yourself. You've been meditating, journaling, setting boundaries, and facing your own shadows. You're becoming more resilient, more self-aware, building a quiet, unshakable inner strength. But as your inner world has become more solid, you might have noticed your outer world starting to feel a little strange. Maybe friends or family are pulling away, conversations feel strained, and you're left wondering if you've done something wrong. Let me tell you right now, it's not all in your head, and you haven't done anything wrong. The truth is, your growth can unintentionally hold up a mirror to the people around you. Your inner strength, the very thing you've worked so hard to build, can expose their insecurities, their compromises, and their fears. And on a subconscious level, that can be unsettling for some. Today we're going to explore this strange and often painful experience. We'll look at the hidden signs that your inner strength might be intimidating others, why it happens, and most importantly, why it's a powerful sign that you are on exactly the right path. Before we get to the signs, let's get clear on what inner strength really means. It gets thrown around a lot, but it's more than just being tough or burying your emotions. True inner strength is like a fortress built on 4 key pillars. The first pillar is self-awareness. This is the bedrock. It's the ability to honestly look at your own emotions, thoughts, and patterns. It's knowing why you feel a certain way, what triggers you, and what your core values truly are. A person with self-awareness doesn't just react to life. They understand their internal landscape so well they can respond with intention. The second is emotional intelligence. Think of this as self-awareness turned outwards. It's the ability to recognize and understand not just your own emotions, but the emotions of others. It's about empathy, sure, but it's also about not getting swept away by other people's emotional storms. You can be present for someone's pain without taking it on as your own. The third pillar is fortitude. This is your inner grit, your courage. It's the persistence you show when facing challenges. Fortitude isn't about being fearless. It's about feeling the fear and moving forward anyway, because your purpose is stronger than your worry. It's the quiet resolve that keeps you going long after the initial motivation has faded. And the fourth pillar is resilience. If fortitude is the act of pushing through, resilience is the ability to bounce back. It's how you recover from setbacks and adversity without letting them break you. Resilience allows you to see failure not as a final judgment, but as a lesson on the path to growth. When you cultivate these 4 qualities, you start operating from a place of deep authenticity. You become a lighthouse, grounded and shining your own light. And while lighthouses are meant to save ships, they can also be unsettling for those who have grown comfortable in the dark. So why would something as positive as inner strength provoke fear or intimidation in some people? It's rarely a conscious or malicious reaction. More often, it's a deeply ingrained subconscious response rooted in some basic human psychology. One major reason is something called the contrast effect. When your presence demonstrates resilience or self-possession, it can inadvertently highlight the lack of these qualities in others. Your calm might magnify their anxiety. Your clear boundaries might illuminate their people-pleasing tendencies. This contrast isn't something you're actively doing. Your very being becomes a point of comparison that can trigger feelings of inadequacy or envy in those who aren't at peace with themselves. Another reason is a perceived threat to status or control. This is especially common in work settings or established social circles. People get comfortable with existing power dynamics. Your quiet confidence and self-sufficiency can be misinterpreted as a challenge to the status quo. You don't need constant validation, you don't engage in gossip, and you aren't easily swayed by group pressure. This independence can feel threatening to people who rely on social maneuvering or external approval to feel secure. Finally, there's a profound discomfort with authenticity. A person with inner strength is often deeply authentic. They say what they mean and mean what they say. They're comfortable with silence. For someone who lives behind a mask of social pleasantries or bravado, this level of authenticity can feel jarring. Your composure might be misinterpreted as coldness. Your ability to be vulnerable without falling apart can be deeply unsettling to someone who equates vulnerability with weakness. In essence, your strength reveals a different way of being, and that can be a scary thought for someone whose sense of self is built on the outside world. Now that we understand the psychology, let's get into the specific behaviours you might be noticing. Sign number 1. They subtly downplay your achievements. Ever share good news you're proud of, a promotion, a personal breakthrough, only to be met with a lukewarm response? Maybe they immediately change the subject, or they say something like, "Oh, that's nice," before pointing out a potential downside. Well, that sounds like a lot more responsibility. Are you sure you're ready for that? For instance, you just completed your first half marathon after months of training. You're buzzing with excitement and tell a friend. Instead of celebrating with you, they say, "Cool." A guy from my office runs ultra marathons. He says the first one is the easiest. And just like that, the air goes out of your balloon. This happens because of the contrast effect we talked about. Your success can act as a spotlight on their own perceived lack of progress. That feeling of insecurity kicks in a defense mechanism. Diminish your accomplishment to feel better about their own situation. They may misinterpret your genuine joy as bragging, but the reality is you're simply sharing a moment of pride. Their inability to celebrate with you as a reflection of their own inner state. Sign number 2, they treat your boundaries like a personal attack. You've started saying no more often. You no longer overextend yourself and you state your needs clearly. Maybe you've told a friend, "I'd love to see you, but I just need a quiet evening to myself tonight." A healthy person will respect this, but someone who feels intimidated by your strength might react differently. You might get guilt-tripped. "Oh, I guess I'm just not a priority for you anymore." Or they might give you the silent treatment. In some cases, they might even get angry, pushing back to see if your boundary will crumble. For years, a family member has relied on you for last-minute favours, knowing you'd always drop everything. The first time you say, "I'm sorry, I can't do that today," they react with shock and anger, saying, "After everything I've done for you. I can't believe how selfish you've become. Here's why. Your lack of boundaries was convenient for them." Your newfound self-respect disrupts a dynamic that served them well. To them, your boundary feels like a rejection or a shift in the power dynamic. Their reaction isn't really about your request. It's about the fact they can no longer have unchecked access to your time and energy. Sign number 3. Their body language screams discomfort. Words can lie, but the body usually doesn't. Do you notice people who seem physically unable to relax around you? One of the clearest signs is a lack of eye contact. They might look at the floor, over your shoulder, anywhere but at you. When you're speaking, they might cross their arms or even physically lean back, creating distance. Imagine you're in a meeting, calmly explaining an idea. As you talk, you notice a colleague fidgeting and avoiding your gaze. When you finish, they say nothing, almost as if they were just waiting for you to stop talking. Their body's in a state of defense, closed off and tense. This is a primal response. Avoiding your gaze can be a subconscious act of submission, a nonverbal cue that says, "I feel overwhelmed." The fidgeting and closed-off posture are physical signs of their internal nervousness. Your calm, grounded energy feels so different from their own anxious state that their body literally doesn't know how to sync up. Sign number 4, They either constantly argue or agree with everything. This one seems contradictory, but these are two sides of the same intimidated coin. On one hand, you have the overly argumentative person. They'll challenge everything you say, no matter how small. You say the sky's blue, and they'll launch into a debate about atmospheric light scattering. It isn't about finding the truth. It's about trying to re-establish a sense of intellectual dominance. They may feel threatened, so they try to poke holes in your points to prove to themselves that they are your equal. On the other hand, you have the overly agreeable person. They will nod along to everything, never offering a dissenting opinion. You could propose a wild idea, and they'll just say, "Yep, sounds great." This isn't real agreement. It's conflict avoidance driven by fear. They're so intimidated by your conviction that they'd rather suppress their own thoughts than risk a potential disagreement. Both behaviours stem from the same root. Your self-assuredness makes them uncomfortable. One person fights to feel bigger, while the other shrinks to feel safer. Sign number 5. You become the subject of gossip. You start hearing whispers. The story is often twisted to paint you in a negative light. Your confidence gets labelled as arrogance. Your independence is called being aloof or not a team player. Your focus is described as ruthless ambition. Let's be clear, the gossip is rarely about anything you've actually done wrong. It's about creating a story that makes others feel better about themselves. It's easier to label you as arrogant than to confront their own insecurity. It's easier to call you cold than to admit your emotional self-control makes them feel chaotic. Gossip can be a tool for enforcing group norms. When you operate outside the norm, by refusing to engage in drama, for example, you become an unknown. The group may try to cut you down to size with gossip to manage their discomfort. It's a sad reality, but their whispers say far more about their character than they could ever say about yours. Sign number 6. They are overly formal or overly familiar. This is another sign that can show up in opposite ways. You may notice some people become excessively formal with you. Their emails get stiff, their interactions are stripped of warmth, and it feels like there's an invisible wall between you. This formality is a distancing mechanism. Your presence makes them uneasy, and they use professionalism as a shield to keep you at a safe arm's length. Conversely, some people might get overly familiar, too fast. They might use forced humour, give you an unsolicited nickname, or make slightly inappropriate jokes. This is often a clumsy attempt to disarm you. They feel intimidated, so they try to level the playing field by creating a false sense of intimacy. It's a subconscious way of saying, "See, you're not so intimidating, we're just pals." Both behaviours are a sign they aren't comfortable interacting with you authentically. Sign number 7. They stop asking for your help, or they rely on you for everything. This final sign also reveals itself in polar opposites, often with friends and family. First, you might notice that a friend who used to come to you for advice suddenly goes quiet. They're clearly struggling but stop reaching out. This can be painful. Often, it's because your own growth can make them feel ashamed of their perceived stagnation. Your strength may make it seem like you have it all figured out, and in their vulnerable state they might feel their problems are too small, or that they'll be judged for not being as strong as you. The opposite can also happen. You become the designated strong one for everyone. People start offloading all their emotional baggage onto you, assuming you can handle it. They call you for every crisis, and then disappear until the next one. They aren't treating you like a friend. They are treating you like a free emotional utility. They are drawn to your strength, but only for what it can provide them. If any of these signs resonate, remember, these reactions are not a reflection of a flaw in you. They're often symptoms of the positive transformation you're undergoing. For years, you may have been told, or told yourself, to be less intense, Be less opinionated. Be less you. Maybe you were taught to shrink, to sand down your edges to make other people more comfortable. But what you're now discovering is that this impulse to shrink was a betrayal of your own spirit. The reactions you might be seeing from others aren't evidence that you need to go back to being smaller. They are proof that you have finally outgrown the box you were in. Think of your inner strength as a light. When you were dimming your light to fit in, everyone was comfortable. But as you've done the work, your light has grown brighter. Now it illuminates the entire room. For those who are also working on their own light, your brightness is inspiring. But for others who have been hiding in the shadows, your light can feel blinding. Your strength acts as a mirror. It doesn't judge or criticize, it simply reflects. And what it can reflect back to people is their own potential, their own unhealed wounds, their own excuses. The intimidation they might feel isn't about you. It's about their own reflection. It's the discomfort of seeing the person they could be if they were brave enough to do the work you've been doing. As the writer Marianne Williamson famously wrote, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, but that we are powerful beyond measure." Stepping into your power requires responsibility. It means you can no longer make excuses. It means taking ownership of your life. Many people are afraid of this responsibility, and seeing you embrace it is a stark reminder of what they might be avoiding. This can be a lonely period. As you shed old relationships that no longer fit, you might feel a sense of loss. That's a natural part of growth. You're in a transition, leaving an old world behind while you find a new community that matches the person you're becoming. The journey of building inner strength isn't just about becoming tougher. It's about becoming more authentic. It's about having the courage to be unapologetically yourself in a world that often rewards conformity. Those strange looks, hushed conversations, and sudden distance from old friends, these are not signs of your failure. They are markers of your progress. They are the growing pains of a profound personal evolution. The fear you might sense in others is a byproduct of the power you're finally claiming for yourself. It's a signal that you're no longer playing small. Do not dim your light to make others comfortable. Do not apologize for your growth. The world doesn't need another person who has shrunk themselves to fit in. The world needs your light in all its brilliance. Your strength isn't a weapon. It's a gift to yourself and an inspiration to those who are ready to see it. Continue to nurture it, honor it, and live from that powerful, authentic core. You're on the right path. Now, I want to hear from you. This can be an isolating experience, and sharing our stories is how we find our people. What signs have you noticed in your own life? Have you ever felt that your personal growth made others uncomfortable? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience could be the validation someone else desperately needs to hear,